So my embarrassing moment this week was actually that I had to call a coworker to ask what it meant when a project manager said that he was done being a Monday morning quarterback. Has anybody heard of this phrase, Monday morning quarterback?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so I'm not the only one. Okay, good. Because I was so nervous that he was saying he had to come in at the last minute and take over because I wasn't like quarterbacking something enough. And that's what I thought it meant. Like I wasn't doing well. But according to my good friend Bob, thanks Bob, it apparently means that my project manager was like done pointing out things from the day before. Like he was coming in Monday morning after a Sunday game and like pointing out things that I could have done differently. And so he was like, "Oh, I'm just done doing this. Like I'm done criticizing you," kind of thing. And I didn't know that. And I had to call, I had to phone someone and I was so embarrassed. I was like, "Okay, I have a sports question." And he's like, "Why didn't you just ask him?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know this guy that well. Like, normally, if it was somebody locally, I would have just asked him, like, hey, what does this mean? I don't do sports." And they would have explained it to me, knowing me and the fact, like, in Michigan, they call me Yay Sports. Like, they're always like, "Oh, Yay Sports," because I don't know anything about sports. And in locally, like infamously, they know the story that I have stock on Robinhood, and when someone like uses your referral link on the Robinhood app, you get a free share of stock in in a company. And so when my brother-in-law joined, I received stock in the Cleveland Cliffs, and trying to relate to my very sporty coworkers, I was like bragging that I had stock in a basketball team, you know? I was like, "Hey, I've got stock in a team." And he was like, "Which team?" And I was like, "Well, the Cleveland Cliffs." And he's like, "That is not a basketball team." And I was like, "Yes, it is." And I was arguing with him. And then I had to do some Googling to realize, yeah, he was correct. It's not a basketball team. It's definitely a mining company. And so like everyone everyone locally like knows that story because it's gotten out over the years about how like because they'll be like, "How's that how are the Cleveland Cliffs doing this season?" You know, things like that. So like locally they know that I like don't know sports at all. And so but they don't know in other states. And so I was like really nervous to be like, "What does this mean, you Monday morning?" I also, if it was negative, I didn't want to be like, "Well, are you telling me that I was bad at something?" So I'm sure that I'm gonna mess up as we like get into these sports movies and sports seasons. I'm sure I'm gonna mess up the jargon, the lingo, and some of the things that are gonna go way over my head. So I apologize in advance. Grant me some grace, and I'm sure we're gonna get a good laugh when it's over. At least I'm not alone in not knowing what Monday morning quarterbacking means. So before we go into our sports movie of the week, we have a new voice on our pod, our guest and my bestie, Lori.
Hi, everyone. It's Lori. I would like to introduce myself as the younger millennial. I am also a millennial, but younger than Allie.
She's just like taking that knife and driving it in. Well, just to give Anna and our listeners a little background, Lori is a few years younger than me, which puts her smack dab in the middle of being a millennial. And we've actually known each other for, I'm thinking about 12 years, maybe. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
We actually met at work, a place we don't work anymore, and she was my date to everything at the time, and she still is. So a lot of things I bring her to as my date. And Hannah, you have a second millennial to back my assessments of the 90s here. We're totally putting her on the spot, but let's ask Lori, like, what was your favorite thing about the 90s?
In terms of pop culture, my favorite thing of the 90s is definitely Aladdin and specifically Jasmine and the tiger, which I should know its name since I loved it, but I feel like it's Raj. But
Yeah,
I
I think that's right.
I
love
think it is.
Yeah,
Aladdin.
Raja.
Oh, Raja.
Yeah.
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 Oh man.
That was a good movie. The video game was good too. I was obsessed with playing the video game.
There's a
I
video
didn't know
game?
there was a video game. Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
thinking that.
I can't remember. I think it was for Super Nintendo. Like now we're having to really like use my
Yeah.
brain back here. I think it was for Super Nintendo. Back in my day, on the Super Nintendos, they had Aladdin, and I think they ended up making it for Game Boy as well, but I didn't have it for that. But yeah, you have to like swing from posts and like outrun the guards. Like you play Aladdin and you're like trying to
Oh,
navigate and get
boo, play
coins and stuff.
Aladdin. I would only be Jasmine. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think that's an option. But yeah, so well, Lori and I have a joke in our relationship that the one thing we don't talk about is NASA. So anytime anything space related comes up, we both usually laugh about it. Like a few years ago, Lori got me hooked on this beer we both love from a brewery that doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. And it was called something like, was it Mission to Mars or like Mars something?
Yeah, Mars was in the title, but I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't even really remember. So when I told her about this podcast, though, I was actually really surprised that her response was, "When are you guys going to watch Space Jam?" Also, because neither of us are sports people, as I mentioned, although she's more into tuned into sports now than I am. This was a classic, full 90s culture sports movie with some real life events tied in. Well, you're listening to Millennial Meets Gen Z 90s edition, and I'm Allison, one of two millennials on this pod today.
I'm Hannah, the Gen Z.
And this week, our movie of the week is Space Jam. So before we get into your guys' assessments, the synopsis for our listeners is Space Jam was a 1996 movie about a basketball legend, Michael Jordan, teaming up with Bugs Bunny and the Looney Tunes to win a high stakes game against aliens, the Monstars, who want to enslave their cartoons for their theme park, Moron Mountain, which is a fun name, and also one that Lori was asking if I would have in my background because I have a big space background. And I was glad to tell her I am not a part of Moron Mountain. Thanks so much. But by stealing their talent, Jordan must use his skills to save his new friends and blend of a live action and animation movie. It was starring all of your favorite Looney Tunes, as well as Michael Jordan, Wayne Knight, Teresa Randall, Penny Bay Bridges, Brandon Hammond, Larry Bird, Bill Murray, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Tyrone Bogue, Larry Johnson, and so many other actors and basketball players. So, first from our 90s newbie, Hannah, what did you think?
So I really loved it. I really like the Looney Tunes, specifically Lola Bunny. I have like a girl crush on her. I'm obsessed with her. So like getting to see her was great. I was like, Lola Bunny. But I really liked it. I actually watched it with my boyfriend and he was like, this is one of my favorite movies. I was like, I did not know this. Why didn't I know this? But I really liked it and I liked the music. And I also know nothing about sports. So it was kind of interesting getting to watch something that was entertaining about sports, kind of like Cool Runnings was. So it was nice that it wasn't just like a basic sports movie without any humor. I thought it was good. I liked the mix of animation and real life.
Did you know of Lola Bunny before seeing this movie?
Yeah, I did.
Is she like in something?
I have, well, okay, I watch her on TikTok edits. I watch edits of
You
her.
watch TikTok? Lola Bunny is on TikTok?
There's edits of her and Bugs Bunny on TikTok, and they're like all over
Okay.
my For You page, and I'm obsessed with her for that.
Okay, I've never heard of that, but that's okay. That's apparently not in my For You.
I'll have
Um,
to send you videos. They're great.
okay. Well, Lori, do you remember this movie a lot as a kid? Like, what do you remember about it?
So my memories about it is mostly just Lola Bunny and like Michael Jordan was in it. But yeah, Lola Bunny was it for me. I love this movie for Lola Bunny. When I sought it out to watch it to like kind of get a refresh, I noticed she's not on the cover. And I was like, she made the movie. Like, how is she not depicted?
Yeah,
She's not really like the main character.
She should be. She needs a
she should
larger
be.
role.
She's like only in for like certain sections and then that's it.
She makes the movie.
But it's
Yeah.
really interesting how impactful she was on both of you. I definitely remember that I did not like Lola Bunny as a kid because I was like, it's over the top, like sexy. And I was like, this is silly to me. Like I was just like, whatever. Um, so maybe, but as an adult, I'm like, okay, she like I'm like, yeah, badass woman kind of thing. But um well, was it weird for you, Lori, like rewatching it as an adult and like having the nostalgia of remembering things from being a kid? And like, was there anything that you were like, oh, this was interesting. I didn't capture that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I would say I think the thing that hit me the most was kind of like the kids of Michael Jordan when they're in the house and like Bugs Bunny comes in and stuff. I think that really kind of like hit me that I love the idea of these characters just coming to life and like it almost reminds me of, yeah, just like nostalgia of childhood of like wishing these characters to meet them so bad, and these kids actually
Yeah.
got to do it. And yeah, I thought that was kind of the something that didn't strike me as much when I was a kid that I really hit me as an adult. I was like, oh, I love that. I love that those kids got to meet them.
Having these characters show up in your house while you were supposed to be sleeping is a little, it's like running into Santa Claus.
Right, exactly. I love
Well,
it.
this movie was written by Leo Benvenuti and Steve Rudnick, a duo known for writing the Santa Claus, writing Kicking and Screaming, and then obviously they wrote Space Jam sequel in 2021, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and also Timothy Harris and Herschel Wingrod. They were also a duo, and they're known for movies like Trading Places, which is an older movie. My Stepmother is an Alien, and Twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was actually directed by Joe Pitka, who actually was not a movie director. He was a director mostly for commercials. He did the iconic Pepsi ads. Lori might remember the Cindy Crawford Pepsi ad where like two kids, uh, she's drinking a Pepsi and they're looking at Cindy Crawford. We might have to play that later, but
Yeah, I don't
um,
remember.
yeah, it was like a really iconic like 90's Pepsi ad. So maybe we'll have to share that and post it out. He also did Michael Jackson music videos like Dirty Diana and Heal the World. He did Nike commercials and he did a music video for the song we hear in here, which is Seals Fly Like an Eagle. And before we rewind on the movie, I think we really need to talk Michael Jordan for a second. So he's obviously played by himself in the movie, but Michael Jordan was really big in the 90's. Like I remember when I was about 4 or 5, and my mom was like unfair. I think she like put me in timeout for something. I was probably in trouble. I mean, I was probably in trouble all the time, but and I remember I had actually wished for Michael Jordan to be my parent out loud, because I told my mom that he would never put me in timeout. So, um, that never came true. Michael Jordan never showed up. But, and I'm sure he put his own kids in timeout all the time. But Michael Jordan played for the Chicago Bulls. He played from 1984 to 1993. And then in 1993, he announced his retirement from basketball, which was a huge deal at the time. I mean, he even played on our Olympic teams before that. And everyone was talking about it. And we all thought he was kind of crazy for leaving basketball. Especially because he was like citing exhaustion and he announced that he was going to play baseball instead. And like that seems really weird being an athlete that's so well known that you can still just like write your ticket into another sport. Like, isn't that kind of like who does that? Nobody's like, oh, I'm Travis Kelce, I'm going to go play tennis. Like,
Yeah.
you know? Um, I don't think anybody else in sports has done that that I'm aware of, other than switching to like golf. Like I know a lot of people, a lot of athletes have like played golf and they've done some stuff kind of getting into it a little bit professionally. Um, but really what I did find, and I didn't know this as a kid, and Lori, maybe you can tell me if you did, but his dad was actually murdered in 1993.
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Okay. See, I don't think it trickled down to this to the younger people, although we heard about him going to play baseball. We saw it all over the television. We saw his retirement.
Yeah.
But his dad had been asleep in a car after a long day of golf and he had like pulled over to take a nap. And he was supposedly like carjacked, but there was speculation on whether or not like it was actually intentional or whether it was really a carjacking. And they discovered his body later in a swamp. So they didn't even like leave him in the car. They like took the car and they dumped his body in a swamp. And so like yeah, that news never spread down to me as a kid. And I almost wanted to like dive into this more on the pod, but I realized like we're not a true crime pod, so I gotta move on. So yeah, but you never heard anything. What did you so before I guess in 1995, Michael went back to play 4 more years with the Chicago Bulls, and then he took another break, and then he came back in 2001, and he played for the Washington Wizards until 2003. But do you remember this time outside of seeing it like in this movie at a later age, or like do you remember the time around when he was retiring?
Not specifically. I mean, I am surprised to hear you say that he came back out of retirement. I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
I just remember him playing the entire time. Like,
Okay. Yeah, he had already by the time because this was in 1996, so he had
yeah,
already started playing basketball again by the time they made this movie. And I think that kind of boosted him to play a couple more years. Um, but yeah, is there anything else about this movie before we rewind?
you hit it.
No. All right. Well, we open on the movie on a shooting star in the sky, and below is a young Michael Jordan shooting hoops. We listen to I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly before we knew he was a bad dude, that's for sure. Young Michael is making every basket, and his dad comes out because it's well after midnight, and his dad says, "Shoot until you miss." And he doesn't really miss. Michael says he wants to play at North Carolina and wants to play on the championship team and then the NBA. And then he wants to play baseball just like his dad, which is really sweet. His dad tells him that he needs some sleep first, which is a good, accurate parent statement. I thought was cute. And his dad asks, like, once you finish all that, you're going to fly, huh? Young Michael is played by Brandon Hammond, who later became known for his role in Soul Food, and he's actually in the movie Mars Attacks, which is a 90's movie, and Our America. I haven't seen Soul Food or Our America, but now I have seen Mars Attacks. James Jordan plays Michael's dad. James Jordan is the name of Michael's dad. He is played by Tom Barry. He's known for his role in The Fast and the Furious and Independence Day. He's actually in both of those movies. And he has like a lot of really great movies where he plays like a kind of a badass dude. Next, we see some video footage of Michael Jordan's career, and we hear the song Space Jam by Quad City DJs, where they're like, here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. And I'm going to tell you, I've been singing that all week after I saw the movie. So I'm sure Bo was really sick of hearing it at this point. But that Quad City DJs also had the hit Come On Ride the Train, like come on and ride it. Um, which I did not put those two songs together at all. We see the recreation of his retirement announcement where Michael announces he's going to play professional baseball. And then we go into outer space to the amusement park, Moron Mountain, where one of the kid aliens says that the park stinks and he tells his dad not to bring him there anymore. The monster boss, Swackhammer, which is like, who came up with these names? Watching that exchange on the security video, says they need new attractions. He accidentally changes the channel on the security TV and puts it on Looney Tunes and realizes like that can be the new attraction. He sends his monster alien guys to go get the Looney Tunes. Make them come, is what he says. And Swackhammer is actually played by Danny DeVito. Most people know him now on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They also might know him as the voice of Philetas Phil I can't even pronounce his name in Hercules. He's the short little guy in Hercules. Um, but our older listeners would know him from his role in Taxi and his role in Twins. In the 90's, he also played the Penguin in Batman Returns. I don't know, Lori, did you ever see that movie? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it.
He was also in Renaissance Man and Junior, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was in Get Shorty. He was in Look Who's Talking Now as the voice of Rox the dog. And he was in Matilda and also in Mars Attacks. So we've got some little crossover there. We flash down to see Michael Jordan playing baseball for the Birmingham Barons. Now, this is the same team that he played with in real life. They're a double-A team under the Chicago White Sox organization. So all of this part, like everything about Michael Jordan's life, was pretty autobiographical, minus the going to the Looney Tunes land. But the people on his team say that he looks good in the uniform, and you can't teach that skill. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that would suck to be like trying to be a professional athlete and somebody's just kind of writing you off. And then the catcher from the other team, thanking Michael for the autographed basketball, keeps helping him by telling him what kind of pitch it's going to be and not to swing or to swing on that. And he's not really getting to play the game as a celebrity. I kind of felt bad for him in that situation. He just kind of looked frustrated.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I was kind of sad that everybody was just being like, I mean, not sad. I guess that's not the right word. I felt bad for him that everybody was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, like you're fine. Don't worry about it." When like clearly he wasn't doing that good. Like these people were not
Yeah.
being honest with him.
And he wanted to just be an athlete. Like you
Mhm.
weren't hard, like everyone was hard on me when I play basketball. Why are you being light on me when I play baseball? And
Yeah,
then go ahead, Lori.
I was just gonna say, I think they were all starstruck, and I think like,
Yeah.
realistically, if he had a different expectation, I would be kind of surprised by that because
Yeah.
I mean he really was one of the biggest celebrities of the 90s, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um,
And so like I feel like if you use that celebrity to then put yourself in a new sport and then you expect to not be a celebrity once you're in that sport, I mean, it's kind of contradictory.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, then we're introduced to Stan, who is the Baron's new publicist, and he's like the guy that is kind of annoying Michael Jordan. Um, Stan is played by Wayne Knight, who we know from Seinfeld as No Man. He's also Nedry in Jurassic Park, which I don't remember that ever being his name, but that's what it says. Um, he plays another Stan in Dirty Dancing. He's also in Third Rock from the Sun, which is now out on, I think it was Amazon Prime. I saw it recently. And he's done a lot of great voiceovers. He's in a lot of movies. He's in things like Tarzan, Toy Story 2, and a whole bunch of other things since. So just then a spaceship whizzes by and heads underground to Looney Tunes land because I did not realize it was underground. Did anybody else know that the Looney Tunes lived below us in this
No.
towards the center of the earth somehow? Okay.
No.
Well, they land on top of Elmer Fudd, who's been chasing Bugs Bunny, which is both voiced by the same person, Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, by Billy West. Which can you imagine having to talk to yourself? That'd be a really hard job. Like playing Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, I would be like, what is happening? But back to the Nerdlucks and Bugs Bunny. So the Nerdluck says, "We seek the one they call Bugs Bunny," and another Nerdluck says, "Yeah, Bugs Bunny. Have you seen him? Is he around?" And Bugs Bunny's like, Bugs Bunny, Bugs Bunny. Say, don't he have great big long ears like this? And they're like, yeah. Does he hop around like this? And he hops around the forest, and they're like, uh-huh. And he says, like, and does he say, what's up, Doc? Like this? And he chomps on his carrot and says, what's up, Doc? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, nope, never heard of him. And they're like, ah. And then Bugs Bunny's best line is, maybe there is no intelligent life out there in the universe after all. But then they catch on by zapping everything around him and they tell him they're taking him for a ride. Meanwhile, we see Michael gets to ride home with Stan, his new best friend. Stan is real eager to please. Michael gets tackled by Charles the dog after Stan leaves, which I thought was hilarious that the dog was like all over. And I wonder if he's named Charles Barkley.
I
That
was
was
wondering, yeah, is that the reference?
I'm thinking it has to be. Like if you name your dog Charles, it has to be Charles Barkley, especially if you play basketball. His son Jeff is getting home and from his game and is upset. Michael Jordan also has a wife, a younger daughter, and a younger son, and they are using the names of his real family. So they're trying to make this like I said, as autobiographical as possible. His wife Juanita is played by Teresa Randall, who's known for her role in Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3, and Beverly Hills Cop 3, Spawn, and Malcolm X. She's also been in an episode of Seinfeld. So maybe they had some crossover with No Men. But Michael Jordan's kids, while under the same name, were not his own. They were actually played by actors. Jeff was played by Manor Washington III. Marcus was played by Eric Gordon, and Jasmine was played by Penny Bay Bridges. I will say that Penny Bay Bridges was in an episode of Boy Meets World. The rest of them did a few movies, but haven't done like anything major. We hear the TV on in Michael's home, and the newscaster is telling Michael Jordan to stop playing baseball and start playing golf, maybe. But like, I feel like that's kind of what the whole world was kind of thinking when he was playing baseball. Like, what are you doing? It's not good. But Michael changes the channel for his kids to watch Looney Tunes, and Porky Pig hops on the Looney Tunes screen and says, "Stop this cartoon!" we have a cartoon character union meeting to go to. And then no one is on the screen anymore but the background of the cartoon, leaving the kids like really confused. Which yeah, I'm glad my cartoons never did that. I would be like, what's happening? At the Looney Tunes union meeting, Bugs is wrapped in chains and says that the little guys want to make an announcement. The Nerdlucks say they are taking them all prisoner, which doesn't get really taken seriously until they zap Sammy Sam. Bugs tricks them to let them defend themselves, and the characters have to figure out what their plan is to fight back on what course, because there's the other guys are small, so they chose basketball as their battlefield. The Nerdlucks didn't have basketball, so they know nothing about it. So Bugs Bunny plays an old movie to describe it. We then see the New York Knicks versus the Suns. The Nerdlucks are, this is Hannah, this is what I was telling you. The Nerdlucks stacked on top of each other's shoulders in a trench coat, which I was telling her the other day. This was huge in the 90's. I don't know why it showed up in every movie, but I did have expectations as a kid that I would sometime get to do that. I never did sneak in anywhere in a trench coat, pretending to be an adult. But like you remember that, Lori, right? Like that was
Oh,
the
definitely.
90's.
Yeah. I feel
Okay.
like, especially like Inspector Gadget and stuff like that. I
Yes.
can't remember if they were compiled on top of each other, but yeah, trench coat was big.
Yeah. Well, like Little Rascals. They
Oh,
did it in the
That I
little
was gonna say that just popped in my head right when you said it. Yeah, Little
yeah.
Rascals was the other one
Yeah,
too.
where they wear fake beards
Yes,
and
the
stuff.
beard.
They also do it. So we just saw it in Hook, which is where they were stacked on top of each other pretending to be pirates. And so like I was like, this is a thing. This is a thing you're gonna see more than once, and this is the second time. So the Nerdlucks overhearing people next to them in the stands, they think Charles Barkley is a killer. I have to say that the people sitting next to him are actually like really well known, and I can't even think of placing. I know that the woman was in the middle, and she was like the mom in Everybody's Loves Raymond, so she's in a lot of things. I cannot think of what the guy was in, but that was a side note. But they hear Charles Barkley is a killer, and so they turn into goo and like kind of go away, and they take over Charles Barkley, taking his talent and putting it into this basketball that they've got stored. And then they take over Patrick Ewing, and then three more players lose their talent, including Muggsy Bogues, Larry Johnson, and Sean Bradley. Now, Michael Jordan is watching the news on the players, and he tells his wife over the phone, like, it looks like he retired just in time. Just then, Stan walks in and says, "Come on, Michael, it's game time. Get your hands on, lace up your Nikes, grab your Wheaties and your Gatorade, and we'll pick up a Big Mac on the way to the ballpark." Like, what a way to get product placement in this movie all in one line. Because these are all the things that he was
He
promoting.
endorsed.
Yeah, he endorsed all these things. So he was on Hanes, he was selling Hanes, he was selling Nikes, he was on the Wheaties box, he was drinking Gatorades and eating Big Macs. So it's kind of funny that they were able to like kind of call him out, and I mean it's one sentence and they call him out on like a bunch. Um the basketball players are all freaked out to lose their talents. And so back at the Looney Tunes, they're practicing their basketball moves. The Nerdlucks asked to use the court, and they have mad skills and the experience of the pros. So then they grow to the size of the basketball players, which is like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Now they're the Monstars, which is good because I don't understand why they were called Nerdlucks either. So I'm better calling them Monstars. Um, and then next we see Bill Murray golfing with Michael Jordan and Larry Bird. And I know Bill Murray is like a really big golfer, so this is kind of a classic spot to kind of put them all in. Bill Murray's a legend, especially now where people want him in a movie, but they never can reach him. That's kind of his MO for everything. Not to mention all the classic stories of him popping up where you'd least expect. Like if you look up anything on the internet about Bill Murray, you'll read a bunch of stories about like him eating fries off a person's plate and saying no one will ever believe you. Uh, or he helped himself to tending bar. Like he just went behind the bar at an event and just started tending bar for multiple hours. Um, it's been really weird to hear these stories from people, but he does show up. He'll like show up to people's house parties and just like go around their house party. But he's done several seasons of SNL in the 70s and 80s. He's been in Caddyshack. He's been in Stripes, Ghostbusters, Scrooged, What About Bob, Groundhog Day. There's actually a lot of things in his career, and they keep going on. And I will tell you, this will not be the only time we see him this year. So we'll see him in several movies this year. Now, Larry Bird played for the Boston Celtics from 1979 to 1992. So by the time that this movie was out, he was already retired. He later went on to coach for a few years. The next year, actually, the Indiana Pacers from 1997 to 2000. He was Magic Johnson's rival. So they both said that they kind of passed the torch to people like Michael Jordan when they were kind of the senior when Michael Jordan was coming up. And kind of the rookie. I will say that the only connection I have to basketball is Magic Johnson. So with my family going to high school with him at Everett, and I have no ties to Michael Jordan, which is good because I'd probably be embarrassed about how much I don't know about basketball. But Bill Murray asks if he has a shot of playing basketball now that these 5 players are out, and Michael is like, no. I love that question from an average person just being like, so you think I could do this, right? And Bill Murray says, it's because I'm white, isn't it? And Michael Jordan is like, no, Larry's white. So what? And Bill Murray says, Larry's not white, he's clear. So, which is really funny. Poor Larry. Michael Jordan swings and hits the ball, and Bugs Bunny uses a magnet. Of course, it's Looney Tunes to get Michael's ball into the hole. And when he reaches in for the ball later, Stan goes to take a picture, and Michael Jordan gets sucked into the hole. My favorite, I mean, I love a lot of Bill Murray's like lines in this movie because he's then like thinking that it's the camera that made him disappear. And he's like, yes. What kind of camera is that? And then he's like, don't point that thing at me. And then he picks up the camera and he like throws it into the woods.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan has been taken into Looney Tune land and everyone comes out to see him. Bugs Bunny explains they're going to be slaves in a zoo if they lose a basketball game. And Bugs screams at him, we need your help, which is a little over the top. But meanwhile, Stan is talking to the hole and asking Michael to come back because they have baseball stuff to get to. So he's like, can you just like come back? Bill and Larry walk away and Bill changes their scores because they weren't really in an emotional state to putt. It's what he's like 2-2. Okay. We weren't really in an emotional state. So they hop in the golf cart and drive away as Bill Murray is still trying to convince Larry to let him play in the NBA. Back in Looney Tune land, the Looney Tunes clean up their basketball court, and the Monstars show up and turn Michael into a basketball, really showing they're not small anymore and they can wipe the floor with their talent. Back in the real world, we see a very sad Charles Barkley watching the kids play street basketball, and he can't play. And they think he's a wannabe that looks like him because he can't do anything with a basketball. And we hear the song Basketball Jones with Chris Rock and Barry White, which is a good song to play with that. The rest of the guys also can't play. They've been getting studied by every specialist. And you see Charles Barkley talking to a psychologist saying, this girl, 5 feet nothing, blocked my shot. It's just like so sad as they're like trying to figure out what's wrong with them and maybe it's a mental block. I just love that. Back in Looney Tune land, the basketball stuff is a mess. And Michael says, has anyone here ever played basketball? And that's when the door opens, saucy music starts, and we see your guys' favorite, Lola Bunny, voiced by Katie Suchi, who also voiced Phil and Lil on the Rugrats. And Bugs Bunny is in love, and he calls her doll, and she's mad. And this is where as an adult, I was like, okay, yes. Like, yeah. Don't call me doll. Don't call me baby. Like, yeah, don't talk down to me. I'm here to play sports. She runs circles around Bugs Bunny and she dunks the ball and then says, don't ever call me doll, and then leaves. So that's like the only part of the beginning of the movie that she's in. And you guys are like, she's my favorite. So she was not ever a character before this movie. So this movie was the Lola Bunny debut. Michael says apparently this was long before she was on TikTok. Michael Jordan says someone needs to go to his house and pick up his sneakers and his Carolina shorts. And Daffy's like, in 3D land? Bugs and Daffy go to Michael's house. This is the part that Lori was saying that she really liked the innocence of this. Bugs gets in Daffy's or into the house, and Daffy accidentally ends up in the doghouse. That's kind of bad. They get the bag and his shoes, and they go looking for the shorts, but Charles the dog has them. Michael's kids wake up and see the Looney Tunes and help them get the shorts back to Bugs Bunny from Charles the dog. The basketball players are with a psychic who says that she sees aliens stealing their skills to play basketball against the Looney Tunes, and they think that she's nuts and they leave. Meanwhile, Stan is still trying to get Michael Jordan when the Looney Tunes walk by. Michael is ready to play basketball, and you hear the song again, Fly Like an Eagle. Stan is followed. He like follows the Looney Tunes into their land and is happy to see Michael there. And back in 3D land, the basketball arena, I think it is. I like put stadium in my notes and I was like, I don't know if it's a stadium. And this is where I apologize in advance. I think it's a basketball arena, like the big building was like being closed to guarantee the health and safety of the team. We thinking we're gonna lean arena? We're gonna lean arena.
Well, it
Okay.
could be court, but like maybe the building is called arena.
Yeah, because like the court's just like that space. Anyway,
Oh,
I hope
okay.
a sports person is like, you guys are stupid. It's called this. In Looney Tunes land, they're getting ready for the game, and we hear the song Pump Up the Jam by Felly and Tektronic. So this is like really good music, as Hannah said. Like this has got great music throughout the entire the I think the soundtrack, I think I might have had it on a cassette tape.
I did.
Okay, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then we see the Toon Squad, and they announce the starting lineup. It's Taz, it's Lola Bunny, it's Daffy Duck, who gets no love. It's Bugs Bunny, it's Michael Jordan, and then they didn't mention there are other people on the team: Sylvester, Tweety, Foghorn Leghorn, and Elmer Fudd, and like a mouse character I've never seen before. Did you know who the mouse was, Lori?
No, never seen that
No.
mouse.
Okay. See, I feel like I watched a lot of Looney Tunes and I have no idea who that mouse is. I'm sure it's like in the history of Looney Tunes or something. But Granny is a cheerleader, and then they also have like a witch cheerleader too. Um, so outside of Lola Bunny, did anybody else have a favorite character? Or was it just like Lola only?
I loved Stan. I thought all of his scenes were great. I shouted Newman when I saw him. I don't actually
Yes.
recall him being there. Yeah, I didn't remember being in the movie, but I loved it. I loved when like he's trying to find Michael Jordan and like he's at first digging a little hole and then like I don't know, 10 minutes later we flash back and it's like a crater like and someone comes over to him and asks, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm smoothing out a divot." And the guy just takes it as face value and walks away. I thought that was a really good scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was really funny. That was really funny.
Oh my God, I completely agree. I think my favorite would be Michael Jordan because
Okay.
I like Jordan shoes, and prior to this I knew like very little about his career history. Now I feel like I know so much more. So I
Yeah.
like him. He's like a good
Yeah,
actor too.
it's he is, yeah. And then we're introduced to the Monstars for Moron Mountain. And I don't know if you guys noticed that, but they're all number zero. Like they had no separate numbers. They were just all number zero. At tip off, the Toon Squad has it until the Monstars knock Bugs out and steal the ball and score, and they pass. The next one, take the ball away from everyone. The next one, they start the ball and they score. Jordan finally gets past them and makes a basket, and the Monsters score again and again and again and again. Now, Lola Bunny has the ball, and they call her doll, and she dunks on them. So, like, this is where we're getting our points from. We hear the song Hit Them High, which is a Monstars theme song. This is Be Real, Coolio, Method Man, LL Cool J, and Busta Rhymes, like a hit list that worked on this song. And at halftime, we are at 66 Monstars to 18 Toon Squad. Stan looks around and he sneaks into the Monsters locker room, realizing that they stole the NBA talent. And they catch Stan in the locker and they zap him. He stumbles back to the Toon Squad and tells them the truth. Bugs Bunny makes Michael's secret stuff, and it's just water, and gives that to the rest of the cartoon characters to convince them that they'll have the same skills as Michael if they drink it. So they drink it and they all go back out there. Everyone's tougher, they're trickier, they're using their Looney Tune skills. And then Michael dunks on the Monstars a lot. Even Tweety kicks butt, which I really loved, his like little ninja moves. And then Elmer Fudd scores. Now, as a kid, I was like a Tweety. I was like, that's my guy. Like, he is like ninjaing. He's like little and he's like taking him out. So he was my favorite when I saw this movie. The Monster boss, Swackhammer, calls a timeout and he's like, "Why didn't you get this guy?" And they were like, "He's a baseball player." And Michael suggests they raise the stakes, giving the NBA players their talent back. If the Monsters win, they get Michael Jordan, which will be a very awful existence for Michael Jordan. He's told he's going to have to like sign autographs and forever, and he'll have to have pictures taken, and he'll never get to leave. The Monsters go back to crushing the Looney Tunes, and Bugs Bunny saves Lola from being crushed, and she kisses him. Aww.
Yeah,
Michael
it's our girl.
Michael Jordan brings in Stan and they make a basket by accident after making him a pancake. He gets squashed. Stan gets pumped back up and then deflated back to normal size. This was very Willy Wonka to do this. With 10 seconds to go, they need another fifth player. And this is where Bill Murray shows up. Now, Bill Murray is my favorite character. And I was like, yes, he wants to play basketball. He finally gets a chance to step in. He's there to win for them. So as Bill Murray enters the court as a substitution, Mr. Swackhammer is like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture," which is a reference to his work in Ghostbusters where he worked alongside Dan Aykroyd and he was like mistaken for him, obviously. The new plan is then to get the ball to Michael and he'll score. Like, that's their plan. And Bill Murray says he was born to thrive on pressure. Michael Jordan leaps off the Monstars, but as they catch him, they're dragging him down, and he stretches his Looney Tune arm to dunk. 77-78, Toon Squad wins. Just then, Bill Murray decides to retire from basketball. It's a very short career that he decided to have, and needs to leave to ice down his knees. The Monstars realize they don't have to take Swackhammer's bossiness anymore, as they're no longer smarter than him, and they can send him away. They sent him away on a rocket. Michael Jordan makes them give their talent back into the ball, and then he gives Stan the ball to get back. They have to go back to their baseball game. He tells the Tunes that they have a lot of it, whatever it is. Back at the baseball game, he arrives on a spaceship where we hear again, "I believe I can fly." And then Stan says on the microphone, "Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Jordan." And Michael shows back up and the guys lost their game. Or he shows back up to the guys that lost their basketball game, and brings out the glowing ball to make the guys all touch it. And they don't want to touch it initially. They're like, "It's a glowing ball." And he was like, "Do you want your game back or not?" And so they all touch it. And they challenge him. They get all their powers back, essentially, all them back. And they challenge him to play 3-on-3, but he says he doesn't play anymore. And they kind of castle him a little bit. And then the Chicago Bulls, later we see them welcome back Michael Jordan. Bill Murray and Larry Bird are sitting in the stands. And Bill Murray says, "Larry, that could have been me." Which is also equally funny. And we hear the song again, "Fly Like an Eagle" by the Steve Miller Band. So that's the end of the movie. What'd I miss? And I guess we'll let our guests go first. Any thoughts that stood out on, or any things that you loved?
You already hit on it, but I think the thing that resonated with me the most is like the soundtrack was so good. And
Oh, good.
I didn't even really make the connection. I was younger, I guess, so I'll excuse myself on this, but I don't think I made the connection that the Space Jam song was like written for the movie. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
it was such a hit. I looked it up earlier. It was number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100, like in 1996. Like it was, I was
They
shocked.
still play it
Yeah,
at basketball games.
I know. And I have one other thing to say about the songs. At one point, like they play "Whoop There It Is,"
Yeah.
and I had the lyrics on or like subtitles on while I was watching it, and the subtitles stated the lyrics as "Hoop." There it
Yeah.
is, like
That's
basketball
part
hoop.
of the Space Jam song. So I think they mixed that into the same song.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it says hoop, there it is. Yeah, they took like pieces of,
I love
yeah,
that. Yeah. So I actually thought it was a typo. I was like, wait, isn't it supposed to say hoop there it is? So
yeah,
but yeah, the soundtrack is kind of like what took it away. And I also don't remember it being such an all-star cast. Like every time like
right.
Newman came through and like Bill Murray showed up and Charles
Yeah.
Barkley comes out and it was just like, does it stop? But it was just like, it was great. I loved it. It felt, like you said, very nostalgic. It was great to see all those faces and be surprised.
Now, am I like misremembering something? Because like I also for some reason thought there was like a scene where Dennis Rodman was like in one of the clips that they showed at some point in this movie. And for some reason, I don't know why I have that stuck in my head, but it wasn't in this movie.
No, I
So,
didn't see Dennis.
okay. Because like I swear that I remembered like they showed a clip of Dennis Rodman and like, and then I was like, so I was waiting for it. And then I'm like, what was that in? I thought it was this. So maybe I'm the only one that thought that. But anyway. Well, how about you, Hannah? What did you think?
I loved it. I'm rating this one a 9.5 out of 10.
Oh,
Most of,
highest
yeah,
yet.
yeah, most of it, won't lie, is Lola Bunny, because that's, I'm obsessed with her. But I also loved the plot. And, okay, this is a little controversial, but I did kind of like the aliens. I did kind of like the aliens. Not when they were
Okay.
big, but I
Well,
thought they were funny.
yeah, they're a little stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I liked them. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I was like, they're so cute, and I like wanted to squish them. I thought that was I thought that was cool. And I thought it was cool too that the psychic was included because like
Yeah.
obviously I'm into tarot and things like that, so I thought that was super cool. But they didn't even believe her, but what she
I know
said
she
did
was
sound crazy. So,
Yeah, she was like spot on. I was kind of looking the way she was like they were waiting so long on her looking into her crystal ball. I thought she was going to give like a false reading and then she like tells them exactly what happened and they're like, "Yeah,
yeah.
you're a hack. We're leaving."
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I just thought that was cool. I also liked that when they were like announcing the Looney Tunes and stuff onto the basketball court, they had like little names. They had like little sayings for them. I thought that was
Yeah.
super cool. I was like, oh my God, that's so cute.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
like where they were, yeah, little tags to
Yeah.
introduce them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's common in sports. I think they do that in some sports announcing.
Oh, I did not know that.
Maybe. I'd have to, it's been a while since I went to a game. So I think the last time I went to a basketball game was probably when the Pistons were playing at the Palace of Auburn Hills, which has been a few years because that building no longer exists. It's been torn down. So it's possible. It's possible. Well, anything else, Hannah?
Let me see. I feel like you covered everything.
What do you think you would have thought about this movie as a kid, like watching it?
I probably would have been so confused because as a kid, I could not process lots of information at once. And I feel like it was a very chaotic movie. Like that was chaotic, which is
It
why I
was
like it now.
bouncing back and forth a lot. Like I
Yeah.
didn't realize how much I went back. Toonland, 3D life,
Yeah.
Toonland, 3D life.
Yeah.
Um, but this is the, I don't know, fourth movie or something that you said that John has seen. So I feel like your boyfriend has seen a lot of 90's movies. I'm actually really surprised because
No, he
yeah,
has. He
yeah.
has.
So he has parents probably showing him like these were our favorites.
Yeah, no, his
Yeah.
family's very much a movie family, so it's so funny when I'm like, oh, I'm watching this. And yeah, it was actually really ironic though, because this week, like early this week, my friends were like giving me crap about never seeing Space Jam. And I was like, guys, I'm watching it this week. Because they were like, have you ever seen it? And I was like, no, I'm watching it this week. And it was just like ironic. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, in 2021 they made the sequel, so I'm wondering if a lot of people saw it because they wanted to see like the sequel and they wanted to know what the first movie was.
Yeah.
So maybe it's kind of like Hocus Pocus where it like came back for a lot of people, I feel. But you hadn't seen that one either. So now you've seen both of them.
Yay. Yeah.
Yay.
Great movie. Great movie.
Well,
9.5 out of 10.
all right. Well, transitioning to our next movie. So we're going from one MJ movie to the next. Our next watch is Free Willy, which is well known as it ties in Michael Jackson's song, Will You Be There? Free Willy was a 1993 movie when maladjusted orphan Jesse, played by Jason James Richter, vandalizes a theme park he's placed with foster parents and must work at the park to make amends. There he meets Willie, a young orca whale who has been separated from his family. Sensing kinship, they form a bond, and with the help of the kindly whale trainer, Ray Lindley, played by Laura Petty, sorry, they develop a routine like of tricks. However, the greedy park owner, Dial, played by Michael Ironside, soon catches wind of the duo and makes plans to profit off of them. And I really like the tagline for this movie: a 12-year-old street kid, a 3-ton orca whale, a friendship you could never imagine, an adventure you'll never forget. So I feel like if I wrote that in some kind of marketing material now, they'd be like, no, this is too sappy. So, Hannah, have you heard of this one, Free Willy?
I have heard of this one. I have.
Okay, but you haven't seen it?
I have not seen this, but I've heard of it. I knew that it was
Okay.
about an orca.
And okay, that's good. I mean, that's on the poster. So if
Yeah.
you didn't know that it was about an orca, it'd be kind of hard. It's literally on the main. You look at anything saying Free Willy, it's like right there. But yeah, I'm a little nervous to watch an animal movie because, but I've seen this movie multiple times. But I don't remember like all the pieces about. I get real upset about animal movies, so we'll see how this is gonna go as an adult. But
Oh,
Lori, what do
me
you
too.
remember about this movie?
I remember loving like dolphins and like orcas, like killer whales. Like I needed to like dive into that after watching this movie. Like I wanted to go to SeaWorld. I wanted to like pet the whales. I was like all about it. But
Were
at the
you
same
gonna
time, it's
become
like free, like don't have SeaWorld, it's very like but you want access to them like as a kid, so
were you gonna become a marine biologist after this? I feel like we all wanted to be marine biologists after this movie.
yeah, I mean, that was definitely when I was a kid, I did want to be a marine biologist. Yeah, and this was an influence.
Huge influence. I think like with the tie-in of Michael Jackson's song too that they use in this movie, like and that plays into music videos that were put out and things like that. But I think that kind of like elevated the movie even more because he did some music for this movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a good watch for you, Hannah.
Okay, I'm
But if
excited.
anything bad happens at Orca, just remember I will be watching it crying my eyes out. So I'm
Oh
probably going to
God.
be nervously hugging a pillow while I'm watching this because I remember I watched it and I made it through and I've seen it multiple times, but I don't recall anything other than like they free Willy. Like
Okay.
that's the only thing that I remember about this
Yay.
movie. There's a kid, there's an orca, there's apparently a friendship you could never imagine, an adventure you'll never forget.
But we did forget the adventure. We only remember the resolution.
We don't remember the adventure. So that was a lie. Somebody needs to rewrite that tagline.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this wraps up this week's episode of Millennial Meets Gen Z. Thank you for pressing play and revisiting Space Jam with us, from Toon World Chaos to one very iconic sketch dunk. Thank you, Lori, for joining us this
Thank
week.
you. I
Yeah,
It's
appreciate
been a
thank
it.
pleasure
you.
having you.
Yes.
Well, next week we will be trading basketball courts for open water as we watch Free Willy. So get ready for feelings, childhood memories, and probably some tears, mostly from me. Until then, be kind and rewind, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye bye.